budget right now. As far as schedule goes, there's 12 chapters that make up the GSP and plus a number of appendices. I think it's appendix 1 through H, I think. Their drafts of all of those have been completed at this point. Chapters 1 through 8, and I think 3 or 4 of the appendices have been submitted to your board for receive and file. Again, the first 8 chapters are really all of just the background of geology and the basin of hydrogeology and things like that, water budgets, the results of the groundwater modeling. All good, important things, but it's all basically just the foundation for what really is the meat of the plan. And the meat of the plan is chapter 9, which are management actions and projects, and chapter 10, which is implementation, which includes how you're gonna pay for all that stuff. So those are the two really to spend the time taking a look at. And the critical date that you can see, that's the date right now that the GSAs have to get their comments on the draft chapters. So it's not the end of the road as far as comments go, but that's the date that our GSAs should be providing any comments that they have on the draft chapters. There's going to be a period of time where I think it's the last 120 days from September to December before it gets submitted in January, but there'll be another period where it'll be going through the more public comment process. But any big things, it'd be good to, if we're going to red flag them or we're going to want certain language in the plan, it would be good if we could get it in by that date of middle of July. Okay. So there's a lot of dates there, a lot of things trying to make happen. But the big dates are that one, and then this thing has to be submitted to DWR by January 31st, 2020. There's a provision to give, basically make it public for public review and comment. Although all of these draft chapters have also been made available for public review and comment. But the final compiled document will be out there for 120 days for anybody and everybody to review and comment on. Okay. All right. This is just a list of the chapters and kind of the status. I kind of already pretty well got through them, but those are all the chapter titles. And then next, on the June meeting, you're going to get to receive and file 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then appendices H through K as well.
Wait, so the status for June would be receive and file chapters 9, 10, 11, and 12. Shouldn't it be to review and then make recommendation to approve? Because I mean, since we have an authority as part of the group.
The way that we're approaching it is that all GSAs are receiving and filing, and the only thing they'll approve is the final GSP. So you're going to get the draft chapters, you get whatever comments, whatever red lines, whatever revisions you want into those. Those go back to the consultant for incorporation into the final compiled document. That final compiled document is a draft document that you'll then be given the opportunity, and this will be, I think it's in September. That will be where you receive comment and give approval subject to whatever.
Again, that is on our website. There's a link to go see all those chapters.
Oh no, I have one. I'm just looking at the procedure of this, and it seems a bit. I have an issue with the fact that we're supposed to make comments, and then, so we're hopefully have this entire package together, and then somebody votes no, and then what's gonna happen? I mean, because they had a question and an issue from previous chapters, what are you gonna do with that? I mean, is that what we're trying to get to, is that point, is where people would just say no at the final draft, and then it's dead?
No, what we're trying to get to is a final draft that all GSAs have had Apple opportunity to review, comment, make recommendations for revisions, so that when we compile the final draft GSP, hopefully any issues that you've had, any suggested revisions that you have, you know, any drop dead, I refuse that condition, any of those things that, on any of those chapters, I wanna know about it before that final document is compiled. And the reason we didn't do approve each individual draft chapter, because just remember now, we have 4 GSAs. If we're taking each one to 4 different GSAs, they're gonna be approving potentially 4 different things, because they're gonna make their own, you know, revisions. If, say you guys had draft chapter 9, and I asked you to approve it, well, you're gonna approve it subject to a bunch of changes, right? But it's just you that's approved that, right? The county hasn't seen what you wanted to change, the Shannon San Juan hasn't seen what you wanted to change, and nor has the city. So this is a chance to let you guys hammer out what you want. Let us, Joe and I, and Kelly, bring it to the committee, see if we can negotiate, you know, all the compromises or whatever we need to negotiate, so that when I bring you a final compiled draft, hopefully it has everything that you wanted in it. And if it doesn't, I'll try to hopefully explain to you why maybe I couldn't get it for you. And at the end, you have the right, if we bring the final document to you for receipt and approval, and you say, I am not approving this, and this board does not approve it, what that means is, per the terms of the MOA, it has to be unanimous. The GSP only gets adopted if it's a unanimous vote by all members of the MOA. So even though we're 3%ers, we still have the hammer.
What is the deadline for us to have the GSP submitted to the state?
January 31st, 2020.
January 31st. So if we don't have a plan by then, because we couldn't agree on something, or we missed the deadline.
Well, by the schedule, sorry,
Go ahead.
by the schedule, they have scheduled by July or December 10th to have approval from all the individual GSAs for the total plan.
Okay, so
Hopefully in that month, we would be able to come to a conclusion.
And really, as it comes September, we're gonna have the final, we're gonna have the document that hopefully I've got all your revisions in, and we still have from September into, you know, November to negotiate between all the other GSAs.
So once we have all 12 chapters plus the appendices, we can then come up with a list of amendments or commentary, and at that point you want to put that in.
Well, I really would like by June, what was the date on that? No, July 15th. I don't think you guys are gonna have much comments on 1 through 8. I mean, maybe some, but the 9 and 10 are the ones that really are gonna affect the district on how we, you know, how we operate, potentially how we operate, how we pump. Have that, they're the only chapters that have any financial impact to us. You know, what are we gonna have to pay and for what?
Right.
So those are the 2 that I really want your input. And I think it might be a good idea in June, you know, or sometime after the receive and file June date, to have a workshop, you know, and just sit down and go through them line by line until we're happy with it. Because we're gonna need a lot of time. I don't wanna come in on, you know, in December and go, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
This is all we're gonna accept, because there's not time
I agree with that.
to negotiate.
Yeah.
My name's Skip Buckman, San Miguel resident. What I want to find out from you, Blaine, is what does San Miguel really going to gain from this? And are we going to be able to collect money from these outlying districts or water users that are taking water from us? Do we get to receive that money, or does that go to the county?
No, as a GSA, we have the right to collect funds to operate to operate our agency and to achieve sustainability.
Yeah, but I'm talking here in town, but I'm talking about the big water users that are in, somehow or another, this whole thing is, when Steinbeck did the thing from Shandon, all that whole area, we got wrapped up into their water failing, all this good stuff.
Mhm.
Are we gonna be involved in that? Are we just gonna go from Passville, Tascadero, our own basin? Cause our basin is San Miguel, here,
Well-
Bradley.
I mean, per Bulletin 118, we're part of the Paso Robles sub-basin of the Salinas River groundwater basin. So we're, by state definition, we're in the same basin as Shannon San Juan. Now, are we hydrogeologically intimately connected? No, we're not. The way the plan is written, and we can go through this, the way the plan is written, right now, the big ag pumpers are going to be asked to bear the burden, as they should, to bear the burden of either curtailing pumping or paying pumping fees that are going to be tiered. The more they pump, the more they pay. That goes to each of the GSAs.
To reach them.
Each of the GSAs, right?
Yeah, I'm Robin Chapman, San Miguel. I would.
I'm
like to
sorry,
point
I
out-
need, give Ann, I'd like you to, I need you guys to sign in, I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh.
It's right up to the podium.
Okay.
I'm sorry, technical stuff. You, I know where to find you.
I get it.
Robin Chapman, San Miguel.
Thank you.
I have been attending the GSP meetings. I also was part of the public brainstorming sessions that were conducted before Montgomery and Associates, I guess, got involved. And I would like to point out that, well, first of all, I don't know, as members of the CSD, are you automatically part of the San Miguel GSA?
They are the San Miguel GSA. They're the
You are,
Groundwater
okay.
Sustainability Agency.
Okay, I would like to maybe suggest that it is incumbent upon you to attend these committee meetings, because what is being considered is so important. And going to the meetings, having read the drafts, granted, you don't get much time. They were put online Friday, and their meeting is Wednesday, does not give you much time to review those drafts. But if you could formulate in your minds what is being presented, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, questions that you have that are unanswered, I think that as the GSA, it's imperative that you know these things and that you can make comments in a timely manner. And I suggest that you don't wait until the deadline. I suggest that you attend the meetings, you can hear the presentation, and you can give comments immediately. You can also comment online. But the sooner they have those, the sooner that Montgomery and Associates can incorporate your thoughts and ideas, complaints, whatever, into the draft. Also, I would like to point out in chapter 9, which maybe I'm jumping the gun.
No, go
Um, I think there's a lot not to like. I think with the revisions that the substitute committee member, Supervisor Arnold, insisted upon. She complained bitterly about the content and said that her constituents would not approve it, and that's why we're having a special meeting tomorrow, or they're having a special meeting tomorrow, is to review the revised chapter 9. And I would like to impress upon you that just about every management action is subject to the actual promulgation by the GSAs, which means that the GSAs have to come up with these ideas, how to implement them, where to get the money, and they have to be, and all these have to have a public notice. Like if you want action, you know, suggestion number 1 in level 1, suggestion 2 in level 2, etc. So I was counting up, and there's something like 10 separate items that are going to need actual regulations drawn up. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Nope.
Actual regulations drawn up, public comment periods, and funding. So that means that the GSAs have a lot of responsibility. And also there's a lot of money mentioned, and it doesn't say where it's going to get it, except from these pumping fees, which supposedly the users who pump more will pay more in a tiered payments scheme, which number 1, I don't see how that's going to decrease pumping, because the people who have the money are just gonna pump. And they'll say, it's just like people who drive SUVs. I'll pay to get 15 miles to the gallon. So the big pumpers are gonna do that. That's not gonna diminish. I don't see how that is going to diminish at all the amount of water that's pumped. And number 2, will those fees be enough to fund all the things that the GSAs are tasked with doing? I don't know. One thing I do like is that Chapter 9 does mention a placeholding for people who don't currently pump or have minimal levels. I don't know how far back the look back period will be, but basically it keeps from punishing the people who have been conserving water, because currently the emergency pumping ordinance says, you know, if you haven't been pumping a certain amount within the last 5 years, you don't have any rights, which to me is not right. And